Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Sorry for the minute delay. I will call our meeting to order at 1:01. It's Tuesday, March 4th. Corporate Officer, do we have any late items? No? Okay. Mayor Holmes has just joined us online as well. You can see him there. Can I get an approval of our agenda today? Councillor Peak, Councillor Van Elfen, all in favor? Great. Okay, our consent agenda. Is there anything that a councillor would like to remove from our consent agenda today? Councillor Betts?
Thank you to the chair. So I'd like to remove the letter from the Minister of Health, the correspondence item B, as well as C and Development Services Report 4.5A.
Okay, thank you. And I will also remove 4.5C, the 2024 free fare ridership data as well. So though, go ahead, Councillor Barco.
I'd like to remove 4.5B, the energy report, for some discussion.
Okay, great. So corporate officer, we've got several items that will now go down to 11, section 11. Okay. Great. And then do we need an approval of the consent agenda for the, okay. Can I get Councillor Peak, Councillor Betts, all in favor? Great, thank you very much. Okay, bear with me here. I am filling in for our mayor who is away right now. We're on to mayor's report now, is that correct? 5.1? Corporate officer, that's right? Okay, so I did do a little deputy mayor's report for you all. Good afternoon, everyone. As you can see, Mayor Holmes is away, and I have had the honor of filling in for him for the past couple of weeks. On Tuesday, February 18th, I attended the second of two presentations held during the official community plan open house at the George Regas Center. This open house was part of phase 1 of the OCP update and review, and that section is called Community Visioning. Throughout the day, more than 80 residents came out to learn more about the process and to provide feedback. In addition, 237 people completed an online survey, which closed last Friday. The next phase of the review will consider the current urban growth boundary, and you are encouraged to stay up to date on future public open houses and surveys on our district's website. The OCP review is scheduled to be completed by December 31st as directed by the province. Thank you to everyone who's participated and contributed their ideas so far. The more community engagement we have, the stronger the final document. On Wednesday, February 19th, I attended the Okanagan Regional Library Board meeting as the representative for Summerland. Staff provided us with a preview of the Summer Reading Club for Kids. It's a program designed to engage our young people in learning and reading throughout the summer. There's going to be lots of fun activities, and more information is coming on that. As well, the ORL CEO, Daniel Hubbard, she will be coming to our community. She's going to be visiting actually all the communities in the region this spring to provide municipal councils with updates and to answer any questions about our library. The ORL system serves a huge area from Salmon Arm to Golden and all the way south down to Osoyoos. This year, Summerland will contribute just under $603,000 to the library system, and we are getting our money's worth. Our library continues to grow in popularity. I want to thank our librarian, Carolyn, and her team for doing an amazing job and creating an inviting and engaging place for everyone in our community, and for the sometimes challenging job of promoting and protecting public access to a wide diversity of books. On Tuesday, February 20th, I filled in for Mayor Holmes at the RDOS board meeting. The board gave second reading to the 2025 budget. Summerland's tax requisition is just under $1.1 million. That's a net increase of 6.25%, and that is actually the lowest net increase of all the member municipalities. Regional directors are still working on their electoral budgets before the third reading next month. The RDOS budget will be adopted on March 31st, and I will be attending another RDOS meeting this Thursday. Also at the RDOS table, we had an Okanagan-Similkameen Regional Hospital District Board meeting where we gave final reading to the 2025-2029 financial plan. This year's tax requisition will be increased to a level that supports capital funding requests from Interior Health at a 30% share, as well as sustains debt servicing for existing projects, which include the new hospital tower at the Penticton Hospital, and it also contributes to capital reserves. The hospital tax requisition for each residential property in the RDOS, which includes Summerland, will increase by $14 to $138 this year. I'm almost finished here. On Wednesday last week, I met with the owners of PH Cannabis on Main Street. The owners invited me to learn more about their business and to offer their thoughts on doing business in Summerland. The owners have been had a variety of businesses in Summerland for more than 20 years. I learned a lot about the cannabis industry in BC that I didn't know. And I also gathered feedback from them on how council, the district, and the chamber can work together to support local businesses. I encourage all Summerlanders to shop local as much as they can and to get curious about the unique stores and services that we have in our town. Perhaps make it a goal to try a new restaurant, winery, boutique shop, or service this spring. There's a lot going on right now that we cannot control, including what's going on in the United States, but we can choose to spend our money locally when possible. And finally, on a personal and related note, my family and I attended the Penticton Bees game on Saturday night, and we had a great time. And I was excited to see Bobby Williamson, who was one of our district staff members, refereeing the game, which is really cool. We had the pleasure of sitting next to a couple of Americans from Brewster, Washington, which is really close to Wenatchee. And they said that they love coming up to the Okanagan to visit, and in their words, to escape the craziness right now. I put in a good plug for Summerland. It was a reminder again that while we cannot control what is going on, most Americans are really great neighbors, and most of them support our local economy and value our nation's friendship and connection. So I just wanted to remind everybody about that. And I hope you all enjoy the summer sunshine this week. Thank you. That was a long report. CAO.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Spring is in the air. Crews are out and about getting things cleaned up. Potholes are appearing, and we are starting to patch those up with temporary cold mix asphalt while we wait for the hot mix plant to get going. Street sweeping is also beginning soon. And given the number of roads throughout the district, it will take about 2 months to do all those roads, street sweeping. Just a note, if people see a pothole, they can report that at works@summerland.ca or call 250-494-0431, and we'll get that on our list for repair. The Prairie Valley Road project from Cartwright to Morrow is also going to be starting up again, which will include a new water main, reconstruction of the roadway, and a new multi-use pathway and other infrastructure. The exact date of the startup is weather dependent, but please keep an eye out for detour signs once things get going. And then please keep an eye out for workers and equipment in the area. We've also been communicating on the website, Facebook, and the newsletter about changes taking place at the landfill in the way we handle materials that potentially contain asbestos. These changes align with WorkSafe BC's objectives and our safe procedures to protect workers and the community from asbestos exposure. Please check out the website for more information. And finally, just a reminder to save the date for Earth Week 2025, which is from April 22nd to 27th. And as per usual, we'll have a variety of activities for residents focusing on education, learning, and having fun. So keep an eye out for more information on that, which will come closer to the date. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, CAO. All right, moving on to section 7, delegations. Today we have Sally Pierce from Destination Summerland. If you'd like to come up to the desk there and just turn on the microphone.
And how do I change? Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me. We've been working diligently on refreshing our brand and our messaging as we become very much tourism and economically driven focused. So I'm here to present the brand identity to you. Oh, hang on, I'm not changing anything. So as you can see, this is the new brand identity for Destination Summerland. And I'm going to go through the process of going through the rebrand. We went through extensive discovery. I will present the logos and the color palette, the typography and the font, tagline options, advertisement options, and our wayfinding collaboration with the District of Summerland and Bottleneck Drive. In terms of going through the discovery, we looked at the profile of 3 of our customers. I'm very fortunate to have spent 2 summers now in the visitor centre and have met many of the people that have come through, and it's been quite interesting. So in terms of the brand identity, we looked at the traveller, the visitor explorer, and the Summerland business owner. So Traveller Greg is based on a gentleman who came through in the spring of last year. He was riding a BMW motorbike. He was from Madison, Wisconsin, and had ridden his BMW motorbike across most of Canada. His wife had flown into Cologne and was joining him for this leg of the trip because she didn't want to be on the back of the bike right across Canada. So he was very interesting. And when he left, I looked up his profile, and he was a senior investment advisor from Madison, Wisconsin, and just thrilled to be in the Okanagan exploring. In terms of the visitor and the explorer, you know, in the spring, we tend to see a lot of German and Swiss people come through. They come into Vancouver and they hire the camper vans. Hans and Heidi I met because they had been to Naramata 20 years ago and wanted to come back and revisit that trip. And so, you know, we took a look at what their wants and wishes were. And then the Summerland business owner, I focused on Farzana, who owns Ikea Day Spa down at Summerland Waterfront Resort. She does run a very good business and is a good example of a local business owner. So in terms of brand identity, these are the various logos in various depictions depending on the use. You know, one is for social media, one would be for advertising, and so on. The typography matches the color palette. You'll see the color palette on the lower left-hand side with the navy and the teal and the salmon. We worked hard to really refresh the colors and not go with something that other communities have used for a long time. You know, we really wanted to freshen things up. So sample taglines, we're looking at simple escape, endless adventure, where adventure feels like home, and trains, trails, and tranquility. These are just some advertisement options. So when we do print, you know, this is what it will look like. You'll see the line that goes through beneath Summerland, and that is very much to depict Giant's Head Mountain and hiking and biking trails. Again, simplest escape, endless adventure, simple escape, endless adventure. Where adventure feels like home. We're working on a wayfinding collaboration with the District of Summerland staff and Bottleneck Drive. Bottleneck Drive has been working on it in collaboration with the district and Destination Summerland staff. We had the review of the first draft on February 10th. We identified the need for brand alignment and unity identity. I presented our brand identity to Christine Coletta and Cameron Walker with Bottleneck Drive. They've agreed that the existing wayfinding signage within the community is below the more recent signage. And I think it's important to make sure that there's a common thread there. Our color palette has navy blue as its grounding foundational color, and Bottleneck Drive has agreed to incorporate the blue into their wayfinding branding. And that's it.
Thank you. Council, do you have any comments or questions? Councillor Peak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sally, I wanted to commend you on the colors chosen. I think they have a much better impact than what we had in the lineage that we used last time. And I think the color plus the graphics on it are very connectable with our community. And I really appreciate the fact that you're working in tandem with the Bottleneck Drive people. They're a large component of what we have. And for the color blue to create a continuity is helpful as well. So I'm very pleased to see what you brought forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Peak.
Sally, I really like it as well. I think that the ads are really clear and I like the box that kind of draws your eye into the image. I think that's really nice. Is this something that you'll be sharing with local people, like local residents as well? Because what I've heard from people is that, or feedback that I've got is that a lot of locals don't even know, like they're still treating this town as like new to them, like some of them. So I think it's really important to reach local people too. Is that something that you'll be focusing on as well?
Yes, I think once we're done with the move, because we're busy packing and throwing out a lot of old junk out. So the plan is, as long as the lease agreement gets approved later on this afternoon, and we can go ahead and move to our new location, which will be a completely fresh start. I'm really excited about that. We'll be doing a lot of rollout. We'll be doing a welcome reception, and I will be issuing press releases. We're still in the sort of transitional phase right now, but once we're in a new location, we'll be very much into welcome and promote and get out into the community, and we'll be downtown. So we can walk and chat and meet with everybody. But, you know, it's funny you should say that, because I've had people come through the visitor centre and some are very new to Summerland and some have been here a little while. But what we've been missing is that key brand identity. And now that we've got it developed, we can roll it out.
Okay, and when are you going to be launching this again? When will you be launching this new advertising?
Well, as soon as we're moved into our new location, as soon as the current building sells, it is sold. But of course, the completion date isn't due. It's been pushed back a little bit to mid-April, because right now we need the funds from that to be able to launch this.
Okay. Okay, Council Barkwell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I too, you know, I really appreciate the new logo, and actually the part about it that I like is the change in the font from summer to land, because that really, I don't know, just makes summer look like a place you want to go. I was wondering, when's the AGM for the chamber or the new destination Summerland? It must be coming up. Have you picked a date for that yet? Do we know?
We have not. We discussed it at our last board meeting. And I mean, you know, rules and regulations say that you're supposed to have your AGM within the first 90 days. I haven't been able to deliver that for the last 2 years and have heard nothing from the Board of Trade. And so one of my board members at the last board meeting said, before you worry about the AGM, just get the building move finished. So as soon as, again, once we're into the digs, then we'll be launching the date to the AGM.
And okay, thank you. And we'll hear about it, I guess, when the time comes.
Absolutely.
Could you update us on this train relocation project?
No update at this moment, Councillor Barkwell. Again, you know, it's again, depending on future funding for the organisation, really. We have to pay to move the train from Calgary. And we need to determine how to pay for that.
You know how much it's going to be, though?
Well, I've been talking with the Kettle Valley Steam Railway people, and they moved a locomotive which is heavier but shorter distance from Kamloops, and it was about $50,000 just to move it. And then, of course, there was the crane. It took 2 cranes to place it into position, and that was an additional expense. There has been some discussion between the CAO and myself about, you know, the chamber owned the building, the district owns the land. It's been sold as a package managed by the district. Thank you for that. And we're hoping to get the MRDT, the Municipal Regional District Tax, as of January 2026, which will then be our main funding moving forward. But in order to get the rail car here, I'm hoping that the money we get from the building will be the bridge of operating expense. And then the money for the land is to be determined for capital, for tourism-related projects. And if we can come to an agreement that the moving of the rail car from Calgary would be a capital expense rather than an operating expense.
I was just wondering, is the rail car will remain available for the next period of time until you get this all worked out?
Well, it is available still at the moment. And if that particular rail car or business car is not, then Canadian Pacific Railway has plenty of connections and lots of resources.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sally, thanks for the presentation. And as we spoke at the last meeting, I think that the most impactful of your rebranding is the destination, and because I think what it puts out there is whatever journey you're on, the destination is Summerland, and I think that is very empowering. And I think that you've done a phenomenal job in putting this together. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Patton.
Sally, I'm curious, who did the rebranding?
A gentleman out of Penticton called Skylar Punnett.
Oh, okay.
With Skylar Punnett Creative. And I've done several branding projects and he's been an absolute delight. He's a Penticton boy, born and bred. His family owned the Lear House. And he left to go to Emily Carr and University of Victoria. He was the art director for an animation company in Vancouver for many years. So very, very experienced, very senior. He's an artist himself. And he came back to Penticton. He came home just before the pandemic. And he's very talented.
Great.
We had a lot of fun together, actually.
Good. Nice to hear that you used a local person.
Yeah.
Okay, any further questions, council? No? Okay, seeing none then, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Okay, Mayor Holmes, can you hear me online? If you have any comments or questions, you'll let us know, I assume. He's out there somewhere.
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I just have the video off just to, because the internet connection here is a little bit iffy.
Okay, just jump in if you want to contribute anything.
Will do. Thanks.
Okay, moving on to section 8. So this is the opportunity for public comment, and members of the public are welcome to comment on our business items under section 9. Did anybody have a comment at all? No? No one online? Okay. All right, moving on to section 9, business items 9.1, the Summerland Pier. I'll turn that over to our Director of Community Services.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Council. As a follow-up from the February 11th Council meeting where Rotary plaques for the pier were discussed, I'm returning with additional information as per Council's request. The Summerland Rodeo Club has requested that a plaque of the Rotary wheel be placed on the pier entrance archway. Council requested a mock-up showing the location of the plaque, as well as options for a District of Summerland plaque and Summerland Pier written along the top archway crossbeam. As you can see in your council package, attachment 1 displays these 3 items for your consideration, and that was kind of mocked up by me, so it's not professional, but it kind of gives you a sense of scale. And attachment 2 is from the plaque company, just showing plaque samples and designs, so you can kind of get a reference on what the plaque's style will look like. Should council wish to add the district plaque, the cost estimate for the smaller plaque is estimated approximately $2,650 plus labor. The Summerland Pier signage is designed in this mock-up to be similar to the George Riga Arts and Cultural Center signage on the building, but with bronze colored letters, silver on the Art Center building. And that is intended to match the bronze on the plaques. The cost estimate is approximately $3,800 plus labor. After this council report was posted, I did get some late quotes for the lettering in black. So if it was a black lettering to go across the top in kind of a satin finish, it would be much more subtle, blending into the gray background. It wouldn't pop like the bronze, but it is much cheaper. So it's an option for consideration. It would be about $2,000 plus labor, or even down to $1,100 for black acrylic letters. So just a few options there. The cost for the district signage would be funded out of the district's allocated project funding from the BC Growing Communities Fund. Of course, Rotary would be paying for their plaque, but for the other plaques, that would be from the district's allocation. And so staff are seeking council direction on pier archway signage prior to proceeding. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have any comments? Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you. I like the idea of the matte black finish, to be honest with you, a little more subtle than this gold, just in my opinion.
Councillor Betts?
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate where you're coming from. I actually also didn't really care for the bronze myself, so nice to have a different option. As far as the bronze sign size goes, the smaller one is preferable to me because it more closely matches the Rotary sign size. So that one seemed like the better choice for me. You know, I'm not sure if the mock-up is entirely accurate, but just I wouldn't want like an edge pointing out as it's just like shown here. So just that would be considered when installed. I'm sure the teams would figure that out. Yeah, for me, the Summerland pier on the large letters, I know that was brought up kind of at the end of our last meeting. I don't find it a requirement for me. I could go without it, but if that's the preference, I would go with like a matte black finish if at all. So that's satin black for me or nothing.
Okay, Councillor Peak.
Thank you very kindly. I like the smaller size. I'd prefer to see it done in black, and I see no reason to put it across the archway. I actually like the beam as an architectural feature rather than lettering on it.
Sorry, can you clarify that again? You don't like it saying Summerland Pier along the top?
I don't think it needs to if we have our side logo on it.
Oh, I see. Okay. Councillor Barkwell, Councillor Patton, any thoughts? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm kind of in the agreement. Once you see the Summerland Pier on top of the arch, it's like, why do we even need it there, to tell you the truth? And I think what really pops out is the Rotary on one side and the District of Summerland on the other. And so I'm good either way. I think though that I would say that as Councillor Van Elfen, it's black where it doesn't have such a prominence, or not at all.
Councillor Barkwell.
I can't think of any compelling reason why we should bother putting Summerland Pier on it. It's not a lot of money, but it still seems unnecessary, so it's just the smaller two bronze plaques is where my vote go.
Okay, I have a different opinion from all of you. I actually really like the bronze, and I like that it says Summerland Pier. I think it's pretty classy looking, and it does match the George Riga Center. So we kind of are starting a bit of a theme, and I don't know, I'm just thinking about tourists and visitors that are coming along, and I just think it's a nice touch. And I like the bronze on either side with the District Summerland logo and the Rotary. I do agree that corner edge of the District of Summerland could be an issue, but otherwise I like it as presented. So does somebody, if there's no other comments, does anybody want to put a motion forward? Mayor Holmes, do you have any opinion? Wherever you are? No? Okay. All right.
No, I have no opinion whatsoever, thanks.
It's the voice of God. Okay, does anybody would like to put a motion forward or any other comments or questions? Go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor, that we go with the District of Summerland sign and the Rotary sign in the matte black finish and delete the Summerland Pier portion of it across the top.
I think the Rotary's already done theirs in the copper.
Black with bronze.
Yeah, it's got bronze on it, so it's only our own sign we're speaking to.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll amend my first motion then that we match the Rotary signage and keep it consistent with theirs and delete the top.
Sorry, wasn't using my microphone. Councillor Betts, do you have any comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just trying to reflect on what you were saying about how it would match the George Riga downtown, and that occasionally when you've got people who are looking to meet up with others at the waterfront, you're actually looking for a meeting place, and if you're a resident of Summerland, you might say, let's meet at the F dock at the first two letters of fish, but that doesn't really mean anything to tourists coming to town. So I'm just trying to reflect upon that, if what you're saying could be constructed. So I'm good either way, but I would go black.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with, I won't be supporting this because I really do think that having the side at the top that says Summerland Pier, it's a really nice finish to it. And yeah, if you say to friends, I'm going to meet you at the Summerland Pier, then people know exactly where to go. So, okay. Seeing no further comments on this very important issue. It is important. The pier has been a very, very well-loved topic that we've been dealing with. And so many people have put in their ideas. So we really appreciate all the community help, and especially Rotary helping out with this project has been great. So I'll call the question then. All in favor? The motion is on the screen there. All in favor? Raise your hand.
I'm in favor.
You're in favor. Okay. And then opposed? Okay. Councillor Betts and myself are opposed. So that carries. Okay. Moving on to 9.2, responsible liquor consumption at public beaches.
Thank you. As a follow-up to the last 2 years trial seasons of permitting responsible liquor consumption at Summerland's 3 main destination beaches, Peach Orchard Beach, Rotary Beach, and Powell Beach, Summerland Chamber of Commerce Destination Summerland is requesting that council consider extending this initiative indefinitely. And you can see their letter attached to the agenda package. The first year it was implemented for the months of June, July, and August. Last year, council extended the time frame from April through to October. And council may want to consider permitting responsible liquor consumption year-round moving forward. Staff followed up with the RCMP, bylaw, fire department, and park staff to ask if there were any concerns from last year and to confirm support for continuing the initiative. No major issues were documented, and they were in support of amending the parks bylaw. They would continue to monitor the beaches to ensure responsible behavior and follow up on any complaints that are issued. Bylaw staff recommend that the amendment to the bylaw permit responsible liquor consumption on the beaches or the sand area only. By delineating the area, it would restrict people from drinking around the playgrounds, water park, on the pier, in the dog park, Spirit Square, adjacent green spaces, etc. Plus, if limited to the beach areas, it has been suggested that it will make it easier to enforce no alcohol in the other grassy parks. The staff recommendation is that council endorse the Chamber's request for responsible liquor consumption at the 3 destination public beaches for the hours of 12 noon to 9 p.m. indefinitely by amending the bylaw. Council may wish to provide alternative direction on the specific locations where responsible liquor consumption should be permitted around the 3 destination beaches. And additionally, council may wish to extend to other beaches or locations. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Elfen.
I'll move the motion, and it's 12 months a year. Definitely, if that's what that means.
So you're moving the resolution as presented? Okay. It is for year round, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, year round at the 3 beaches listed from noon until 9 at night. Okay. Councillor Markle?
I'm just wondering about this on the sand only because most people will set up their picnic meals and stuff, including beverages in the covered area. Is that, is that contemplated in this?
Through the chair to Councillor Barkwell, if that's council's desire, I would suggest we add that on so right now, as it's written, is just the sand areas. So if there's park green space or Spirit Square or dog parks or other locations in and amongst those beaches, then I would request that those are added to the motion, please.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen, now he did put a motion on the table and we don't have a seconder yet. So were you going to comment on your motion?
I can amend it.
Corporate office, that's okay? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I would amend the motion to include Spirit Square green areas where picnic tables are supplied and yeah, that'd be about it, I guess.
So picnic tables,
Wherever there's green grass areas in the parks, picnic tables, Spirit Square, front lawn of City Hall, wherever you want.
okay. Corporate officer, is that okay what Councillor Van Elfen proposed?
Sorry, through the mayor to Councillor Van Elfen or maybe potentially Lori, if we're just saying Peach Orchard Beach, Rotary Beach, or Powell Beach, that would mean the parks in their entirety, not just one area, correct?
Through the chair to Kendra, the way it's intended right now, as per bylaws recommendation, is it just the sandy areas on the actual beaches proper and not the park areas and the other amenities around. And I think Brad from bylaw might have a comment.
Yeah, so the motion as written, maybe I could be wrong. I think I would interpret that as it would mean the parks in their entirety. Okay, so we will just put parks at the end of that. Okay.
Okay, I'm not sure who was that. I think Councillor Patton, and then I'll go over to this side.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I spend a lot of time down there, and it has been really quite interesting this year. The amount of people that have been down along on the waterfront having fires, and of course they're having their beverages there. But I do agree with Councillor Van Elfen and Councillor Barkwell that to open it up to the picnic tables that are adjacent to the walkways by Spirit Square. And I think that we're not going to stop it if we say sandy area, but I think at some point too, that we haven't had any complaints by the RCMP or very few. So I think that it's been pretty well self-regulated and people enjoy being able to attend down there. And so I would agree with the motion brought forward.
Would you mind seconding it?
I will second.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, so I've kind of lost track of where we are on the motion. That I would suggest that we don't want to have the first paragraph included because as proposed by the Summerland Chamber of Commerce, we're proposing something different than their proposal. So if our motion just reads, and if this is the intention of the mover that it's just in the parks in general as it always has been.
Corporate officer?
Would you like to bring that forward as an amendment to the main motion?
Well, main motion gets us there anyway, then I guess that would be pointless. If they understand, if the main motion reads, and I don't know if I've followed all the amendments, that there will be consumption of alcohol in the parks and it won't be limited by what's in the proposal by the Chamber of Commerce, then we're okay. But, you know, having that Chamber of Commerce reference in there, it could create confusion and contradiction.
For me, it's pretty clear. I think that the chamber wants us to just allow people to consume alcoholic beverages within our park public spaces responsibly. And that's what I get from this, and that's something that they brought forward and that council's agreed, and that so far it's been working. So that's what I get when I read this. So I think it's fine, but I don't know how the rest of council feels.
Through our corporate officer, would it be appropriate to ask our representative here from the chamber if she's upset with my motion, or would she be happy with the motion? Would that be out of line, corporate officer?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Van Elfen, it is up to council on whether or not they would like to ask anyone in the gallery to speak.
Council, would we like to hear Sally Pierce's feedback?
Oh, I would.
Okay, do we need a motion for that or can we just invite her up? Okay. Sally, what do you think of our motion?
I'm a little unclear as to exactly what the motion is at the moment. But given the fact that for the last 2 seasons, it's worked well, I think my understanding is the main intention is to open it up year round and to change bylaws so that it's indefinite. I do agree with the conversation about sand and grass and what have you. We'll support whatever council decides, council and staff decide.
Okay, thank you for that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Councillor Betts, and then I'll go online to Mayor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to Director of Development Services. So in terms of the bylaw perspective on this, on these proposed changes. So we know that there was very little RCMP and bylaw activity resulting from the responsible alcohol consumption on our beaches. Is there a feeling from bylaw that it would be preferable to limit it purely to the sandy areas? Because I think what council seems to be doing is saying it's pretty much responsible consumption would be acceptable at these parks, these 3 parks, which is a larger space. But I'd like to hear the perspective from Development Services, if there is one, from bylaw.
To the chair, to Councillor Betts, thanks for that question and the opportunity to speak on bylaw enforcement's behalf on this topic. We found there was limited amount of complaints or issues from the trial period this last year. So it's overall a positive pilot program from a bylaw enforcement perspective. I think that we're always concerned about consistency of rules when we're trying to enforce those rules throughout the community. I know that's probably where the recommendation was, and that what differentiates these 3 beach parks is that they have beaches, and so there'd be kind of a clear differentiation there, but we'll enforce whatever council comes forward with. So if it's council's wishes that the entire parks to be allowed for these 3 individual parks to be included in this, then that's what we'll allow. A couple of points I'd like to point out to council. This would also include the dog park at Peach Orchard as part of that area. And then on top of that, our main concern is Memorial Park, that it does not be extended to Memorial Park from a bylaw enforcement perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. And so as a follow-up, just as an observation, when I've been personally down in these areas, down at Peach Orchard, there's been events where families are at Spirit Square or those large gatherings, and there are a variety of beverages available for consumption. And that's not down on the water right there at that point, partly because the rocks are now there as a flood mitigating factor, right? So people are up at Spirit Square. So I'm just trying to approach this from a lens of utility, I should say. I don't want to just allow, at the picnic tables and at this specific location. I mean, it's either only on the beach or in the whole park for the sake of, I would think, enforcement and understanding in our community, just so that we have a clear message. And if it's in that lens, then for me, I would take it that it would be acceptable in the green spaces and at the picnic tables myself, just because there's people who are using those amenities, not only on the beachfront. That's my perspective.
Mayor Holmes, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So just to confirm, we're talking just about these 3 beach parks, not other parks. No.
Yes, we have Peach Orchard Beach Park, Rotary Beach Park, and Powell
Park.
Beach. Those 3.
Yeah. Okay. So I certainly I agree you should be able to have your drink at Spirit Square, though I'm not so sure if we really want to have people drinking in the dog park or drinking in the playground. So I don't know, as Councillor Bett just spoke of, it's probably one or the other, either the beaches or everywhere. And I don't know, should we be concerned about, maybe Mr. Delvin has a view on that. Should we be concerned about people drinking in the dog park and the playground?
Brad, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, through the chair to Mayor Holmes. I think, again, we'd like to be consistent. I think RCMP would probably have some comments too, although they're not here in attendance, with regards to the playground, perhaps, in particular, being included. It really depends on council's philosophy, I think, here. I look to our neighbors to the south of the city of Penticton. They've become fairly liberal with allowing, including, for example, all of Skaha Park, I think, is almost now included in opening up. So although other municipalities are not as liberal, I think City of Cologne is a little bit behind, right? So I think it really depends on what council feels is appropriate.
Okay, Councillor Barkwell, and then Peak, and then Benno.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just realized that the concern about keeping it only to the sand was from staff and not from the chamber. So that's my confusion, creating confusion. So that paragraph doesn't really matter. And my thoughts on the putting any limits anywhere, like the playground area, I don't see it's not going to be a place where people are drinking. The most you'd ever see is some father walking over with his beer in his hand because he's been told to go get the kids for dinner. It's not an issue.
Councillor Peak.
I think that we've had good responsible practices from the public. I think if we open up a responsible liquor consumption in these parks, then it's in these parks. Whether I'm sitting at a picnic table, I'm sitting on a bench over by the walkway, I'm with my dog at a picnic table in the dog park. I think we're looking for responsible actions from the public. And we've had that, so I don't see any problem in endorsing this as an indefinite bylaw, that we continue to have the opportunity for our public to be responsible liquor consumers in our public parks, these 3.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I don't see the issue with this. I mean, indefinitely grassy, knoll, whatever, beach, it's not the end of the world. It's an RCMP issue. If it gets out of hand, it's irresponsible. Somebody's going to phone 911 and it gets dealt with. I mean, it's not the end of the world. And people have been really good about it. It's been very responsible. We've had very little complaints, so open it up and allow it to go forward, please.
I just have a question for Brad. Would it be bylaw that enforces this or our CMP?
Typically, most likely it'll be our own bylaw department if there are any issues, because it's a bylaw that this is now going to be amending our parks regulation bylaw. So although, our bylaw officers are not always available, and so the RCMP can definitely enforce our bylaw as well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Everybody understand the motion presented? Yeah, okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Okay, does anybody else feel like there's a minor earthquake in here? That's from the construction across the street. Okay, it's a little bit distracting. Okay, so we're moving on to 9.3, fees and charges amendment bylaw number 2025-011. And that is Lori. Oh, sorry, Kendra, that's over to you.
That's okay. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trainer. So at the December 10th Committee of the Whole meeting, December 9th and 10th Committee of the Whole meeting, Council and Committee recommended the following, that the credit card recovery fee be expanded to the Recreation Department programs, that a recreation cancellation fee of 10% of the program cost be implemented, and that a utility bill mailing fee of $1.50 be implemented. So the proposed fees and charges bylaw number 2025-011 has been drafted in accordance with the direction and now can be considered for first, second, and third reading. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you kindly. Kendra, if I might ask, the recreation cancellation fee of 10%, look, if I've had a medical, something happen to me and I have to cancel going, I still have a cancellation fee regardless?
Sorry, through the chair to Councillor Peak, I'll answer that question. We do have terms and conditions that fall under that. And if there is a medical reason, then we would waive the cancellation fee.
Thank you kindly. Makes sense.
Councillor Betts and then Van Elfen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is to Lori about cancellation fees. Does that apply for space for cancellations on bookings as well, or just programs at this time?
Through the chair to Councillor Betts, it is not at this time for bookings of facilities. So it's just for programs, swim lessons, and membership passes.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Sorry, I'll move the resolution.
Okay, just hold on 1 second. Lori, will this be communicated out? Okay, so I guess it would be under terms and conditions like you said then. Okay, good. Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Betts? Okay, any further questions? Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you. Just to review, we were talking about ways for people to avoid the credit card charges in case of early morning bookings. Did we discover, were they able to basically put a credit on their account by coming into the recreation department? They'd be able to come in, do a payment by cash, check or otherwise, basically load a balance onto their personal Perfect Mind, is that it? Account, and then book from that point. Is that something that was made possible or still achievable?
Through the chair to Councillor Betts, it is possible right now, so it's always been an option, but we are putting it in with our communications to highlight that opportunity for people. So registration is 6 a.m. in the morning, but still is, but we will, we've got it now in our rec guide, and we will be doing an emailer to all people that are going to be registering for programs to give them that information.
Perfect. I just think that's important for people who are trying to avoid credit card fees wherever they can. I certainly understand the opportunity for us as a corporation to not be paying those fees as a group. And so I think that's the lens that this was brought forward with. So thanks for having that.
Okay, thanks for your comment. Any further questions? Comments? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? Great, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, 9.4, the 2025 powwow between lakes sponsorship funding. CAO, is that yours? Dave, oh, I'm getting everybody wrong tonight. It's Dave's. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trainer. So at council's last meeting, staff were directed to report back to council on funding options that would provide an $8,000 sponsorship to the Four Seasons Cultural Society powwow between the lakes event, as there was no funding allocated in our 2025 budget. So the staff report does provide for 3 alternative funding options, so the council could look at choosing. Option 1 is to fund the full amount from the district's accumulated surplus fund. Now, although sufficient funds are available, we are not recommending to fund this request entirely out of surplus. This is primarily due to the potential impact on U.S. tariffs, which came into effect today, and how those might affect some of our larger projects as we move down the road. Option 2 is to fund the sponsorship by reallocating $5,200 of operational budgets, as well as using $2,800 of the accumulated surplus. Now, in this option, in the report, I just wanted to note that it's to utilize approximately $1,200 of that as unallocated grant and aid funding, and which council normally leaves and earmarks for minor sports teams who have qualified for provincials. To date, I have received 3 applications, and we could be receiving more in the coming weeks as hockey teams are vying for provincial berths. So council may want to take that into account as well. And then option 3 is to fund the full amount by having staff review current budgets and reduce operational budgets by $8,000 in order to make the sponsorship cost neutral on the overall budget. Now, regardless of which option council chooses, we are recommending that any future funding requests for the powwow be part of our annual grant and aid process. It'll help ensure all funding requests follow the same process and guidelines, and should help minimize having to locate funds outside of our normal budget process. That's my report, and I can answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Patton and then Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dave, thanks for that, Dave. I agree with you totally in regards to that. I think that's why we have the grant and aid program. And I think over the years, we have been a little bit lax where we've allowed after the fact to come in, and then we've had to adjust our budgets in regards to when we're handing out money. But as far as your options go, I like option number 3.
Okay, Councillor Betts.
Thank you. I was actually looking at option number 2. So finding the suggested operational savings of 4,000 and then the remaining from accumulated surplus. So that was number 2 was my preference. In terms of moving their requests to the grant and aid approval process, is there a discussion about, or maybe this comes at budget time, but maybe looking at increasing the grant and aid budget accordingly?
So through the deputy mayor, that would be a discussion that council would have during budget preparation. The grant and aid budget has fluctuated over the years. This year we reallocated a portion of it, as you're aware, from the grant and aid process itself over to our standing grants. We moved, I think it was about $8,000. So it does fluctuate from year to year depending on where council wants to go.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually don't want to support $8,000. I would prefer to reduce it to a bronze. We did a $20,000 grant last year, and I don't see the reason that we need to go at an $8,000 level this year. I would rather go at a bronze at $5,000, and I would take it on option 3.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen and then Barkwell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The bronze option is what, 5,000?
Yeah.
Okay, Thank you for that information. I missed the last meeting, but I appreciate that. And going back to what our Director of Finance was saying, there are definitely, I've been watching Facebook, there are a bunch of Summerland teams that are going to the provincials, so I expect them to probably be here looking for their $500. So there's that, and I have to agree with Councillor Patton. I like option 3.
Councillor Bark,
I like option 3.
Councillor Van Elfen,
Is there any further, would there be any further discussion to reevaluate, like what Councillor Peak was saying, going to bronze from the 8,000 to the 5,000, considering that we did do 20,000 last year?
we did 20,000 2 years ago. They didn't have one last year. Oh, no, that's okay. And I would definitely stay with 8,000. We did have a discussion last time, and I believe we decided on 8,000. Yeah, I mean, we're already cutting it in half by more. This is a really popular event. They did a great job a year and a half or 2 years ago. It's an opportunity for all of council to attend this event, and it shows our support for our improving Indigenous relations and our relationship with the Penticton Indian Band. So I think $8,000 is a fair contribution. We've lowered it from what we did before, but we're not going to the lowest one. And I'm okay with option 2 or 3. So that's where I stand on it. Councillor Barkwell?
If my microphone doesn't stop shaking, I don't know. I'll hold it. Or else my voice wavers. We talked about the amount of contribution last time. I don't even remember which way I voted, but all the pros and cons have come out, and I don't want to re-debate it. So I go with the original amount.
Okay, would somebody like to put a motion on the table? We've got one that staff have recommended.
Which one is
Are you going to, Councillor Barkwell?
I'll support motion option number 3.
Okay, so that's the one that's oh no, we need to change it to option 3. Yeah, okay. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Van Elfen? Any further discussion on this? Councillor Betts?
Yeah, I guess this might be to our Director of Finance. So when option 3 suggests general fund operational budget reductions to cover the remaining funds, where do you propose that would come from?
Thank you. And through the deputy mayor, $4,000 has already been kind of identified in terms of the telematics. We're going to go from 28 to 24. The remaining $4,000, we'll lock all the directors in a room and we'll arm wrestle to see which of them has to reduce their budgets. But in all seriousness, we'll have to sit down and have some conversations internally and figure out where we can find those savings. But the direction, not using the surplus, is the direction we need in that regard.
Okay, any further comments? Hey, hearing none. Mayor Holmes, do you have any comments? Oh, okay. All right, I'll call the question. All in favor? Opposed? Councillor Peak?
Oh, good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that carries with Councillor Peak opposed. Okay, we do have a scheduled break now. We'll take a quick break. Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 2:15. Okay. Okay, we are back. And we are on 9.6 Chamber of Commerce lease for 13230 Henry Avenue. And I will hand that over to our corporate officer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Trainer. Staff have prepared a draft lease between the District of Summerland and the Summerland Chamber of Commerce for the municipal property located at 13230 Henry Avenue for the purposes of the Chamber of Commerce using the property as a temporary visitor center. The proposed lease has a term of 1 year from March 28th, 2025 to March 27th, 2026, with the opportunity to extend for an additional 2 periods of 6 months at the district's sole discretion. The lease also states that the district may terminate the lease at its discretion and the chamber must vacate the property within 30 days. Should council approve the lease agreement as drafted and in accordance with sections 24 and 26 of the community charter, the district will post and publish notice of its intention to lease the premises to the chamber for less than market value. As the Summerland Chamber of Commerce is incorporated as a not-for-profit organization, the district is permitted to lease the property to the chamber for less than market value. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Betts.
Thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to speak about it. Quick question. Will the Destination Summerland be able to put signage on either the lawn or the building in a way that is removable but still can advertise what they do?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Betts, yes, they will.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Councillor Betts, you're going to move it?
Sure, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Okay, as presented, Councillor Peak, seconding? Okay, yeah, I think this is a really great opportunity to use a building that's currently vacant, and it'll give our chamber a chance to come downtown, which will be really good, get people downtown and then heading over to Main Street in Victoria. So I think it's a really great opportunity. Okay, Councillor Betts, go ahead.
Thank you. Just following up on some of the lease details about how we ended up landing on the utilities and how the chamber would pay the difference of what we would pay for the empty building to keep the utilities on year round, whatever is an addition that Destination Summerland would take care of. I find those terms reasonable and hope that it gives Destination Summerland a solid foundation to move forward to the next steps and a new beginning. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comments, I'll call the question. All in favor? Great, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, 9.7 Community Emergency Preparedness Fund, EOC Centers Equipment Training Regional Grant Application. That's Kendra, okay?
So thank you again, Deputy Mayor. So RDOS staff have prepared an application to the CEPF EOC grant for $200,000 with the District of Summerland, the Village of Karamias, the Town of Oliver, and the Town of Osoyoos. This grant will enhance emergency preparedness regionally, and it will support responder, I don't even know how to say that word, and safety when responding to rural remote emergencies. Additionally, the grant will allow better collaboration between EOCs and the consolidation of EOCs when responding to large-scale affected multiple jurisdictions requiring a unified response. The grant funds are intended for the purchase of equipment in the EOC, including smart boards, GIS, rapid damage assessment, responder kits to support remote functionality, on-site safety and communication and accountability procedures during an emergency, as well as for the facilitation of related training and exercises throughout the region, including facility rentals, food and refreshments, and travel costs. So staff are looking for a resolution of support for the District of Summerland to participate in the regional initiative. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Councillor Van Elfen?
I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor Peak, who's seconding? Okay, any questions on this? No? Oh, Councillor Betts, go ahead.
Thank you. Kendra, are there any additional expenses anticipated as an outcome of receiving this grant?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Betts, not for the district. So the RDOS will get the money, and we've put in a request for various pieces of equipment for our EOC. I believe one of them's like a GIS laptop so that any GIS administrator can come in, whether it's our own or from the RDOS. So all the costs are with the RDOS. There's no financial impact to the district other than we'll receive some benefit for our EOC.
Sounds good. I think it just makes so much sense to be prepared in advance gives us the edge in a crisis. Thank you.
It's also good to be working with the regional district and all the other communities in this area on this. So, okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? Great, that's carried unanimously. Okay. Bylaws for adoption, alternative approval process results, loan authorization for Victoria Road upgrades, bylaw number 2024-035. CAO.
Yeah, I thought maybe I'll introduce a little bit on process and then turn it over to our corporate officer to speak about results and other elements. So at the October 15th Committee of the Whole meeting, Council selected the financing options and directed staff to initiate the AAP process for long-term borrowing for the Victoria Road upgrades and the Wharton Street revitalization project. At the November 5th, 2024 regular council meeting, council approved the determination of the total number of electors, established the elector response form and timeline and deadline for receiving elector response forms, and then gave first three readings to the required loan authorization bylaws for the projects. The bylaws were sent to the Provincial Inspector of Municipalities for statutory approval. And then this approval was for each bylaw, and it was received in late November, early December from the province. In accordance with the timeline previously established by council, the legislatively required notice was published in the January 16th and 23rd newspapers. Information and notice was also provided on all district media channels, including the website and January and February newsletters, and many times on the district's Facebook site. Elector response forms were available starting January 16th in accordance with legislation, and the deadline for submitting the forms was February 25th, 2025 at 5 p.m. And I'll turn it over to our corporate officer.
Thank you, Graham. So the AAP process for loan authorization bylaw number 2024-035 closed on February 25th, 2025 at 5 p.m. 771 elector response forms were received, with 3 being rejected and 768 accepted. This represents 7.66% of the estimated electors validly submitting elector response forms. As the required 10% of estimated electors was not received, approval of the electors has been obtained for this bylaw. Council may now consider this bylaw for adoption. Next steps include a 1-month quashing period, provincial inspector approval, and issuance of a certificate of approval. A security issuing resolution and agreement will be required, and the bylaw will be forwarded to the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen to borrow on behalf of the district, and ultimately it will be sent to MFA for fall 2025 borrowing. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions on the Victoria Road upgrades process and bylaw.
I have a question. So we received a grant for this project, a $1 million grant. How will that money be applied?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll turn that over to our Director of Finance. And to be clear, for the Victoria Road project, we received a $1 million grant. And that's to do with the water side of the development. But also, we had also previously received a $500,000 grant associated with the multi-use pathway development. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Director of Finance.
Thank you. And to the Deputy Mayor. So we were initially planning on borrowing, I think it was about $1.8 million for the water works project from Victoria. Now, with us receiving the $1 million, our overall borrowing goes down by the $1 million. So basically, the loan authorization bylaw provides the district the borrowing capacity up to that number. So we will now, in principle, not be required to borrow $1 million. So we would only borrow the amount of money that we need in order to complete the project. So in this instance, if the $1 million, when we get the $1 million, we no longer need to borrow that.
So even though we're going to keep that top borrowing capacity at 1.8 million, we're likely only to need about 800,000.
That is correct.
Okay, and then in terms of the, so when the AAP went out, it talked about what people will see on their taxes each year. So will that number be lower now?
Yes. So I believe the initial dollars that were included in those November and December meetings were about 25. Oh, so the new number is now $25.20 annually. $10.33 of that relates to water. And on the property tax side, it's $10.09. So there is a reduction in what people will be paying based on this $1 million.
Okay, sorry, can you repeat those numbers again? It's a reduction of.
So the new numbers,
Mhm.
so a house assessed at the 892,000. So we'll see a 0.57% property tax increase, which is $10.09. And then on the water side, there's a decrease from the $15.11 that was previously provided to council. That now drops to $10.33. So in total, the new cost now to a property is $25.20.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Patton.
Thank you, through our Director of Finance. So this $1 million grant, wasn't it hinged to, this was an agricultural, to eventually tie in our agricultural water on Giant's Head? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dave, please excuse me, I'm having a male moment. So I'm looking at the $10.33 increase for annual water rates, and I'm looking at an increase to property taxes of $10.09. Isn't that $20.42, not $25.20?
Yeah. So through the chair, yes, you are correct. It is $20.42. I don't know where the 25 came from.
No problem. Thank you so much. I thought I thought I was losing it again.
Okay, so we just have a typo in there then. So 2520 should actually be 2042. Okay, so that's noted. So that's good. At least it didn't go up. Okay, does anybody have any questions at all surrounding the results or the bylaw? Oh, Councillor Pete, go ahead.
There aren't any questions, Madam Chairman. Could I move the motion?
Yes, do we have a seconder?
I'll second.
Okay, Councillor Patton. Any further comments at all? Councillor Betts?
Thank you. I think that this project is, the Victoria Road project is an important one to move forward in terms of connecting and repairing Victoria Road South and finishing that up to the oval about. Having had the other parts of the project up to Dunham and Egger be completed over the last few years. And so I think that this will be a really important finishing of that work. You know, I'm really proud that staff put the effort into getting the grants, that we saw $500,000 towards the multi-use pathway, that we've now received $1 million towards the twinning for the agricultural water line. And that's coming out of the total $3.85 million budget. We've received $1.5 million in grant funding towards projects that are really necessary for maintaining the quality of infrastructure in our community. So with that in mind, I support adoption of this line item.
Hey, I agree with everything that Councillor Betts just said. Is is an important investment in our infrastructure, especially when it comes to water. We need to stay on top of these things. Otherwise, we know what happens. We get water line breaks, which cost us a lot of money and affect our residents. So this is one step in the direction of taking care of all of our infrastructure. So without seeing any further comments, then I'll call the question. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, that's carried unanimously. Thank you. That's the Victoria Road results. And now we're moving on to 10.2, the alternative approval process results for Wharton Street. Over to our corporate officer.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the alternative approval process for loan authorization bylaw 2024-36 Wharton Street upgrades also closed on February 25th, 2025 at 5 p.m. 932 elector response forms were received, with 3 being rejected and 929 being accepted. This represents 9.26% of estimated electors validly submitting elector response forms. As the required 10% of estimated electors were not received, approval of the electors has been obtained for this bylaw, and council may now consider it for adoption. And again, next steps include the 1-month quashing period, provincial inspector approval and issuance of certificate of approval. A security issuing resolution and agreement will be required from the RDOS, and then the bylaw will ultimately be forwarded to the RDOS to borrow the funds on our behalf and sent to MFA for fall 2025 borrowing. And I'm happy to take any questions on the Wharton Street upgrades process.
Okay, thank you. Council, any questions? Councillor Pat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a question, more of a comment. I still, and I said this earlier at our committee of the whole, I do think that the reason that we did have such a high number of respondents to this one is that there was a lot of misinformation that was put out in regards what this project was about. And I'm happy to see that it did go through, but it does go to show that if we don't have a very detailed communication plan, that things can go awry in a very short period of time. Especially, it's very hard to disseminate bad information because we're only doing it to one person at a time. But I'm happy that it's gone through, and but I do think that it was maybe an educational process for us in regards to communication.
Councillor Van Elfen.
I'll move the resolution.
I just have a quick question before I take it, a seconder. Actually, we can get a seconder. Okay, Councillor Peak, great, thank you. Perhaps Joe could answer this. This project's going to go out this next week to get more specific numbers. Is that correct on the items for the project?
Yes, we actually started the RFP process about 3 weeks ago and ran it in parallel with the AAP, clearly stating that the project won't proceed if the AAP is successful. The bids actually close on Monday, the 10th of March, and then we'll start the evaluation process from there.
Okay, and during the evaluation process, we'll look closer at numbers, and then if we have to, council is able to scale back certain things if prices come back not what we anticipated.
Correct, yes. We'll review everything and bring some recommendations. If it comes over budget, we'll bring back some recommendations and options for council to look at.
Okay, thank you. And then in terms of finding any grants for this project, is there still the opportunity to apply for grants towards this project if opportunities come up?
Yes, absolutely. We're always looking for grants. Most grants, once you start a construction, they won't allow them. The majority of them are prior to construction, similar to the active transportation grant we discussed at the last meeting. It wasn't eligible for this one because we're so far ahead in the process. So most grants are fairly proactive. So unfortunately, probably won't be any for this, but we will keep our eyes open.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we have the motion on the table. Any further comments? Councillor Barkwell and then Councillor Betts.
I would just like to note that, it's not unanimous in the community that we should go ahead with this project or any project. And we never will get everybody to agree on everything or anything, any one thing. But I put this project in context to what has made Summerland one of the nicest places to live already. You know, you enter the town, well, go back further, 1990, they did the downtown revitalization. I'm sure it was controversial. I'm sure it disrupted a lot of people. Matter of fact, I lived on Main Street during the construction of that. It wasn't that bad. I lived in a building above a store back then. I was, how many years ago? 35 years ago. So then 15, 20 years later, we do another project that vastly improved the entrance into Summerland, Prairie Valley Road, Rosedale. Controversial again. Should we spend extra money on boulevards and trees and stuff? But now, and roundabouts, now everybody accepts it. Another 15 years, another project and another improvement. And, you know, once it's done and people look back, they'll be glad. They'll be, this is the Summerland that why they came here or why they stay.
Councillor Betts.
I'd like to say thank you for that. I think that that perspective is kind of how you try and guide your community to make the best decision to try and plan for the future. And that's kind of where council landed after lots of feedback for the Downtown Neighborhood Action Plan to make these improvements to our downtown and continue to grow Summerland as just such a premier community that it is. And for that reason, I can see that these investments into our downtown will continue to draw businesses, draw people who own businesses into Summerland to come and invest in Summerland, to live in Summerland. And that's the future that we need for Summerland in the long run. And so, of course, as well, the infrastructure improvements are so important. But I think that there, of course, was not a unanimous vote about whether or not to do this project or if the timing is correct. But in 4 years, inflation could change and it could cost 25% more. So I think it's important to take a look and really believe that this is a valuable project to invest in Summerland in our future collectively.
I'm going to go to Mayor Holmes and then I'll come around to their side of the table. Go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. So yeah, I'd just like to, I guess, recognize that I know a lot of people are frustrated with the alternative approval process. I think, you know, people voted, many people that I spoke to, you know, really they were voting when they were sent in their forms. It was as much to protest against the process as it was against the project. But it should be understood that this is the process set by the province that we're following here. And really, I think 10% is not of the population is not that high of a bar, and so I think we can be comfortable going ahead with it. And I'd also like to say that this is part of this. This is just one part of what's been a very long process in establishing our downtown neighborhood action plan, which started with the community task force. There's been extensive community consultation all along the way. And so I hear what Councillor Patton was saying about communication. We can always communicate better, and but at the same time, it's kind of you just don't know what to do sometimes of how to reach people, and sometimes people don't pay attention until there's actually you know, dollars out of their pockets that are there. But it has been discussed in the community. It's been out there for years now. So you know, that some people are just learning about it now. It's not surprising. It's just like anything else. And I also say, you know, there are grants that are still out there. We are working with partners like the Legion, and they're getting money for the cenotaph upgrades and whatnot. So, you know, we'll continue looking for money where it's available. So, but I'm looking forward to this going ahead. It's going to be you know, a long overdue refresh to connect Memorial Park to downtown. So rather than having two separate, Memorial Park over here and downtown over there, it'll all be one. And it's going to be great for the economic revival of downtown. So that's my comments. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Peak and then Patton.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I want to repeat that the community has been engaged with this project for 4 years. And we've had charrettes, we've had presentations from architects, we've had walking tours of the downtown. There was a lot of discussion in the community to come to these ideas. And for council to then to pick up various aspects of that project to carry it forward. We are following the will that we saw through those discussions with the public. I think the AAP process is as good as it's going to get. I remember there was discussion whether it should be single person answers or done on a sign-up sheet that if you didn't disagree or you did disagree. I believe that if people want to make a protest against it and have a particular point of view, that they should submit it one at a time. I think that means that you've taken the time to understand the project. And engagement is very important. As larger projects like this roll out, people do come along and they just start to get engaged. And engagement in our community, even when it is controversial, that discussion is still important. So I'm very glad that we've engaged the community in many different ways. And I think the opportunity to move this project forward is important for the community. And I think that in the whole time I've lived in Summerland for 15 years, that people have said, we want to see good infrastructure, and this project will bring a lot of good infrastructure to our downtown. It is an economic renewal. Some of the changes in our OCP and our bylaws through planning are going to open up the opportunities. And I think that when the community sees the changes that are coming along, that they're attractive, that they do the kinds of things they would expect the community to be doing, that people will understand better. So I'm very pleased that we've come this far, and I'm very pleased to be finishing this project along.
Thank you. Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm in agreement with everyone. And it was interesting with Destination Summerland today, because Summerland is a destination point for thousands of people that come here to spend their vacation, spend their time, and spend their money. And I think that what we're doing in our downtown core is not only enhancing it for our citizens, but also it's going to be quite the focal point for our visiting public. And on the other side of that, I know we spoke about a little bit earlier, is the storm retention that we're going to be using in the park. And I think that infrastructure upgrade, because we had already put the money into Wharton Street when the apartment building was being built, that we put extra money into the storm lines there. But now to utilize the park as a storm retention to release water to, when we have these high storm events, I think is a very responsible way of how we look forward at maintaining and increasing the infrastructure that we have. And so I'm very happy that we're moving forward with this project, and I can see that there's in many ways that it is going to enhance our lives in Summerland. So that's what I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just through to our Director of Works and Utilities, if I may. These bids will come in, could be Penticton contractors, Kelowna, Alberta, we don't know. Is there an opportunity for you, if the contractor is from out of town, can you please introduce them to our concrete people, our rental center people? Because many times you see contractors come into town and, they may have relationships with their suppliers out of Kelowna, but you'll see skid steers, excavators from rental centers and stuff like that from up the valley. If they could try to shop locally, it's a huge impact for our small business owners here in the community too. So if you could please introduce the new people that come to town and that we have, we're more than just a little tourist town, that we do have businesses here that can supply their needs. Thank you.
Okay, I just have a couple of quick comments. First of all, I wanted to thank everybody who was involved in the AAP process, our staff, and all of council and all the community for getting engaged. What became apparent to me in this process is that a lot of people don't understand referendums. They don't understand alternative approval processes, and I probably wouldn't if I wasn't sitting here either. And so it kind of became clear to me that, I think our school system actually needs to do a much better job of educating kids on what it means to be a taxpayer at the local level, and what that involves, what your responsibility is, what kind of different tools we use as local government, because I can understand people were frustrated. They don't necessarily know what an alternative approval process is and why we use it. And it's a tool that we get from the province to help us make decisions and to engage the public. And it's cheaper than doing a referendum each time. We can't do a referendum each time we want to do a project. So this is the tool that we have available, and it might not be perfect, but I believe that we followed all of the rules, and we did the best that we could, and we informed as much as we could. I mean, I still have people coming to me saying, why didn't I know about this? And I don't know why you didn't. I mean, we do have, when you're paying taxes, you do have some kind of responsibility to pay attention to where your money's going. So again, I appreciate everybody that participated. And I am also glad that this passed. It is difficult as a counselor to spend money, but there's never really a right time to make these investments. And we have to rip the Band-Aid off sometimes and just do it, because if we don't do it today, in 10 years, we'll look back and be like, why didn't we make that decision? It'll be 10 times more expensive. We'll have broken pipes. So we have to make these decisions, and it's hard. It's hard. I mean, nobody wants to spend more money, but we live in a community that requires it. So anyway, I just wanted to thank everybody involved, and yeah, that's where we're at now. So does anybody have any final comments? Councillor Van Alphen, go ahead.
Just going back to what you're saying, Deputy Mayor, first time I was on council was a 3-year term. And during that term, there was discussion on closing Henry. And now it's, let me see, 3, 4, 8, 12 years later, and we're getting there. So the wheels of progress don't always go quickly in town, but there was talk back in those days of closing Henry and having it for festivals and stage area for our, Festival of Lights and stuff like that. And it never went forward then. And today it's going forward, and it's good. I think it's progress, and it'll be a nice addition to our community. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further comments then, our motion is on the screen there. So I will call the question then. All in favor? Okay, any opposed? All right, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. All right, moving on to 10.3, financial plan adoption. That Kendra or? Oh, we don't. Okay. Sorry, I'm thinking about the previous one that we just did. Okay, so we just need to bring this forward for adoption then. So Councillor Van Alphen, Councillor Peak, any further discussion? No, okay. All in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. And 10.4, public notice bylaw. This is for adoption. Councillor Peak, did you want to speak to that? You admit? No? Okay. Can I get a mover? Councillor Van Alphen, seconder, Councillor Betts. Any final? Councillor Barkwell, do you have a comment?
I just want to note that we extensively debated the pros and cons of this move previously, and came to this conclusion as a group of citizens in Summerland, and as moving into the future. And so here we are now.
Corporate officer, the changes that we are making for public notice, where will those be communicated?
So thank you, Deputy Mayor. So the bylaw will actually take effect April 1st. So April 1st. So I believe that we have language. It was kind of difficult because the newsletter had to be printed before council had this meeting. So we do have language of the proposed changes in this newsletter. And hopefully by the end of this week or pretty early next week, we'll start pushing it out on our website and Facebook. And I haven't thought too much of the rollout. We might even do maybe like an ad in the newspaper to say we're changing, might be irrelevant, but it'll start coming out in all of our district communications.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very kindly, Deputy Mayor. I did have concerns about notices, and I do think it's something that we should mention over the next year, perhaps in our newsletter, to let people know that we no longer are doing ads in the newspaper, because I've heard expressions of concern around that. So I'm hoping that we could do it on a little bit on a regular basis so people begin to understand that they will have to look for it in other sites.
Through the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Peak, I do believe we're going to have a standing kind of small section in our newsletter to say public notice is available here. So it'll be in every one going forward.
Okay, any final comments? So we had a mover and a seconder? Yeah, okay, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Okay, great, that's carried unanimously. Okay, moving on to section 11, items removed from the consent agenda. So I believe the first item was the letter from the Ministry of Health. Councillor Betts, were you the one that removed that? Okay, do you want to speak to that?
Sure, it's just really sharing with everyone that the formal correspondence from the Ministry of Health and the minister herself that we will not be receiving the funds at this time to move forward with the project as we had envisioned. However, the letter also expressed some hopefulness that the budget, which is released today, might have some opportunities moving forward. And I will note that in healthcare from the province today, there was $4.2 billion announced over 3 years to improve health services, including primary and acute, long-term and community care services through other service delivery organizations or agencies. So perhaps we have an opportunity, but I feel like the time window is short. So it's a disappointing news, but there's still this small opportunity. Maybe the mayor has something to say.
Mayor Holmes, would you like to add to this?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel we've been down here before. They said that's the same thing last year, maybe like last year's budget, there'd be money, and of course there wasn't. The thing that bothers me in that letter is basically, I don't have it in front of me right now, but if I recall, basically saying that, we should be working with the South Okanagan Primary Care Network and fit into their model, which is what we've been doing. And we work very closely with them. The whole problem I see is that model is basically because all the funding is going to rural primary care, and Summerland is not considered by the government as a rural community. And the whole model, the way it's all set up, is for people. Eventually everybody in Summerland will be attached to a family doctor, but it means we'll all be going to Penticton to access that primary care. And this is the fundamental problem that the government just won't recognize. And so it's a much bigger issue than just them not wanting to fund a primary care center here in Summerland. And we just have to keep hammering on them. We have to look at different angles, and it's a very frustrating process. And it's like the government, they just want people attached to a doctor. They don't care where how far they have to travel, how accessible that has to be. They're not concerned about building community. As far as I'm concerned, one of the most important things of being a community is access to education and access to primary care. And if you don't have those two things, what kind of community are you? So, until government starts looking at all these kind of things as a whole, I think we've got an uphill battle here, and I don't know where we go from it, but it's extremely, extremely, extremely frustrating.
I agree with what you said, Mayor. That's all true. And even in the letter that I have in front of me here, the minister mentions that Summerland is located just 18 kilometers from Penticton. So they are assuming that everybody can get down to Penticton. Healthcare is not really our jurisdiction, but I do think that as local government leaders, we need to continue to advocate on behalf of our residents and to ensure that our primary care needs are met here. So like you said, it's very frustrating, and I'm not sure exactly where to go next, but I think we'll continue to push whenever we can, whenever we have an opportunity at UBCM, and whenever we can. Councillor Van Alphen, go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. You hit the key there, 18 kilometers from Summerland. That's not the first time we've heard that. I remember in Zoom meetings during COVID where that was indicated to us. Aren't you 18 kilometers away from Penticton? So when I read this and saw that, here we are, deja vu. So it's unfortunate, but onward and upward, I guess.
Okay. Corporate officer, Councillor Peat, go ahead.
Thank you very kindly, Deputy Mayor. This letter is they're saying there's no chance they're going to give us money. They doubled the allotment to 9.78 million for the South Okanagan Primary Care Network. I think that we're out of luck at this point. And I think the only opportunity is to keep arguing for the opportunity for funding for community network of health. And I agree with the mayor that to be a community, there are certain things that are key. And healthcare is one of them. And it isn't about the distance, it's about the delivery of the services. They've gone from 15.5 full-time equivalents for clinical staff to 46.2. So at this point, they're only going to fund through the primary care network. We have to keep arguing for being a hub on the primary care network, which is what we've been trying to do. It's important for our community, and I think as a council, we need to acknowledge that we still need to be speaking to the ministry regarding this.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think our citizens need to know also that is pointed out in this letter that we did contact the ministry on September 18th, 2024, December 10th, 2024, January 13th, 2025, and February 13th, 2025. And it was because of the last letter that Mayor Holmes in February sent to the ministry that we finally got a response that they said, you're too close to Penticton. And so not only is it a kind of a kick in the gut here, but their response to us, they pretty much ignored us for a year every time we contacted them. And even with the group that went to UBCM, that just fell on deaf ears again. So I agree with Mayor Holmes and the rest of you that this is going to be a very long uphill fight with the province to get primary care in Summerland.
CAO, can you just update us quickly on this proposal that we've really been working on for several years was proposed to go in a new seniors affordable housing project. So now that project will still go ahead. obviously as planned without this facility. That's correct?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, the plan, I did talk the other day to the project manager, Mr. Ian McIntosh, and he indicated they're still moving forward. That the plan now is to still keep the building height the same, but that main floor area that we're hoping for this would be turned into just more accommodation for senior affordable housing. And they are themselves working through some political regulatory headwinds that is currently slowing down the project there as well.
Okay, thank you for that update. Corporate Officer, do we need to approve each correspondence item or can we do them all? Okay, thank you for that. Okay, so we took out, that was number B, sorry, letter B. And then can you remind me what the other ones under correspondence were that were pulled? C? Okay, and Councillor Betts, did you take that? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity, Madam Chair. So the reason I bring this one forward today from One Sky Foundry is that they are showcasing youth events hosted to support Summerland youth. I was just suggesting that maybe rather than these coming through to council, that we could, encourage this messaging to be maybe streamlined the communications for perhaps on the rec calendar, on the library calendar, to the schools. Like, I'm happy to share this information, but I think that it would be best if it's a regular communication to go to some other groups that can disseminate the information to our youth as compared to at our regular council meeting. But I certainly think it's a great organization, and I'm so happy to see that they are including Summerland in their programming for our young people. I think it's really important, and it's hosted at the Summerland Library, and that's happening in March. And there's just lots of opportunities every Thursday in March. But yeah, CAO, is there a way for us to kind of streamline these communications with them?
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor Betts. I think our corporate officer has an idea in that regard.
So I was just looking at, or through the deputy mayor to Councillor Betts, I was just looking at the email. There's potential that it does. It looks like it's just a generalized, like it's not coming specifically to mayor. It is coming specifically to mayor and council, but it looks like it's kind of one of their, they probably blasted out to many organizations, I'm thinking, but we could respond to this one and advise that that was a request of council to include other organizations, although it would be up to those organizations to want to provide their email.
I think I think we're just on their mail out list, but I'm sure it goes to the high schools and the library and everything. I think they know that we're probably too old to attend. Okay, so that was item C, and that was it for correspondence then, is that? Okay, so 4.5 under items for information, the first item A, January 2025 Development Services Report. We did pull that for Brad to highlight. Oh, go ahead.
We'll just get a resolution to receive those two pieces of correspondence for information.
Okay, yes, thank you for the reminder. Councillor Peak, Councillor Betts, all in favor? Okay. Now on to item 4.5A. Did you want to ask it? Yeah, okay, Councillor Betts, go ahead.
Thank you. So with the Development and Services Report, I just kind of drew out a couple of different little pieces of information I thought were interesting for the community. One would be that, of course, now that the United Church has come down on Henry Avenue and that the construction is continuing, I just wanted to remind people that we've got a 60-unit subsidized housing project coming together. And just a little reminder that for people who are wondering, there is a Section 219 covenant requiring that the building will not be turned into an emergency shelter in the future. And that I'm actually really looking forward to this new building. I think it's going to be just really beautiful and contributing to our downtown. Secondly, this is more of a question. I noted that in January, 10% of bylaw time was being spent on FOI files. And I guess my question for our Director of Development Services is, what does that take away from, and how does our bylaw team kind of balance their time in trying to work on active files versus responding to paperwork and FOI requests, and what's the implication of that?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Councillor Best, thank you for the question. It's a challenge to answer directly. I think we have, especially at this time of the year, we only have one bylaw officer. We don't have the seasonal on staff until the springtime. So that individual is trying to balance a lot of different competing priorities. When we receive an FOI, we have legislative deadlines to respond back to the person submitting it. Our corporate services department does a good job of being on top of it and providing the requested information to our department in a timely manner. But unfortunately, we do have to drop things when these FOIs come in, and because otherwise it wouldn't get done. And they are, like I mentioned, legislated. So it's always a bit of a balancing act, but unfortunately it's those active complaints that people are submitting that we aren't able to respond sooner, as probably what people are desiring, that are actually submitted to us, that we're not able to follow up as efficiently as we'd like to when these FOIs come in.
Thank you. As a follow-up, is this kind of an abnormal amount of the bylaw officer's time being spent on fulfilling FOI requests, being 10% of their time?
Through the Deputy Mayor to Council Betts, no, that's not abnormal. I think for the last 2 to 3 years, it's been kind of the norm. A lot of the FOIs that we receive, I think Kendra, our corporate officer, would agree, are related to bylaw enforcement files. So those are often directed to our team, and it does take a lot of their time.
Okay, thank you for keeping us updated on that.
Brad, I just have a question about 2 properties. The property on Jubilee, do we have any update across from the arena and down a bit? Is there any progress going on there?
No, I haven't heard anything. The latest was in the fall from the builder developer that they've picked up their plans and are going to reevaluate, and we'll have to resubmit for a building permit, but we haven't received any application. Okay,
and then the hotel and apartment that was going kind of on Turner and Julia, do we have any updates on that at all?
We currently are managing a building permit for the apartment building only right now. And the developer is working on some of the requirements for the building permit, like offsites, in particular, the offsite infrastructure improvements. And so we are pretty close to getting to a point where we could issue that building permit, but a lot of the remaining items are in the developer's court right now.
Okay, and no word from them on the hotel?
No.
Okay. Okay, any other questions from this report at all? No? Okay. We received the 3 of them after this, after we've gone through them all. Okay, item B, the energy report. We'll do a motion for the 3 of them afterwards. I can't recall who pulled the energy report. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Madam Chair. I was just sort of interested in seeing the growth in our consumption and sales, and which locations are get the most revenue and the least revenue. And let's go back to the right graph. It's fun with Excel here with all these graphs, and ways of presenting the information. But the Turner Street one seems to continue to be reasonably strong, but the Mac store's opening up there, has installed electrical EV power, which will be heading into our business there pretty soon, I would expect. And so it started me thinking, well, what's the cost of maintaining a location? We've got the revenue figures here. Is there somewhere in here I didn't see it, how much it costs us to keep each location and what we, and that, there's fees with the collection of the money and such. Do we have that? Because eventually I think we might want to be thinking about which ones we want to keep there operating.
Through the chair to Councillor Barkwell. So yes, we do have kind of a running tab of the maintenance fees. A majority of it is related to monthly or annual fees related to operations through warranty. So I would have to go back and look at the 2024 year. Each set of chargers that we installed between 2019 and 2021 had a bit of a staggered start. So it varies from charger installations to charger installations. So I'd have to go and look that up if that's something that council would like to see brought back.
Maybe I can just leave it. Well, yeah, next year. Next year, let's, because, we don't know when the Mac store is going to open and what sort of dent it'll put in the Turner Street location. But the costs and, related to operating these along with the revenues, I think are kind of nice to know. Thank you.
Thank you. I had been looking at these basically at the charging sessions as well. And I find it just really interesting about how basically the level 2 chargers are going down in frequency of use, where the level 3s are going up dramatically. And then I think what will be installed at private businesses will even be a level higher. Is that right? Like sometimes they're the even faster chargers than what we see here. What I like about them is that, especially the Memorial Park locations, you've got people charging and then spending time in our downtown. And I think that's the goal. And the same thing down by the waterfront resort. With the expansion of the private networks of charging stations, I wouldn't see us necessarily expanding our own unless they could be shown to be quite profitable. Other than in specific locations where it can encourage members of the traveling public to kind of frequent our businesses as compared to using it as a service. So for me, and full disclosure, I'm an EV owner. Electric vehicle owner. And so when I travel, for example, Merritt, they installed some in their downtown near their tourist information booth, parked there, went and had lunch at one of their downtown businesses, charged my vehicle, kept on going. So I wouldn't want to just see them kind of spread willy-nilly at a cost to the taxpayer. But maybe with time we'll see the level 2s phase out and level 3s would be kind of the only option moving forward. Just because if the maintenance costs kind of go up with them with time as they're used less frequently, just something to keep in mind as we kind of move forward with them and we see more private businesses offering faster chargers. We just want to be targeted in where we would put any more in or upgrade ones that we have. Just has to be with purpose, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, it was nice to see the fees collected was $20,000, which has gone up since 2020. I believe when we put started putting those charges in 2019, we got grant, but our cost was $500,000 on top of that. So when you really take a look at what we're making dollar-wise on those, less your maintenance, we're not really getting a big bang for our money at $500,000 investment in 2019. So let's hope that with our downtown revitalization, more people will come with electric vehicles and start using these chargers.
Okay, any further comments on that item? No? Okay. So moving on to item C, the 2024 free fare ridership data. Odessa, I was wondering if you could just update us on how the free fare program is going and just an overall trend of where we're heading in terms of ridership.
Through the chair, happy to do that. So looking at the ridership between 2021 and 2024, I looked mostly at the post-COVID, just to account for the fact that there was a significant drop in ridership during COVID in the 2020 year. We are seeing a significant increase, specifically between 23 and 2024 being, let me see, 12.8%. So we went from 16,799 in 2023 to 18,964 in 2024. I would like to note as well is that BC Transit has seen overall across their ridership in BC a 14% increase. So we can assume that there is a little bit contributing to just post-COVID increase in transit, but also an increased demand in general for transit in the BC communities. So I think that's something really important for us to keep in mind is the ridership program has definitely helped emphasize and support that increased need for transit in the community. In addition to that, I've also noted with UMO being launched last year in March that we started doing Summerland free fare passes as a way to more streamline the process of residents using the free fare program that council approved, but also to allow us to keep track of actual residents who are getting the pass and subsequently utilizing it. So in total, we had 657 Summerland free fare passes issued between Municipal Hall, which is one of our vendors, and the Aquatic Center, another one of our vendors. So overall, we are seeing an increase, as well as month over month, we're seeing increases across 2024. And I specifically noted as well in the report that in some cases we get a bit of a dip in the summer, likely just due to people being out and about in their vehicles and not necessarily being around for work or school to use the transit. And in this year, this is one of the first ones since 2021 where we've seen a greater recovery and a smaller dip during the summer. So we are seeing that over time in July and August, where we see that typical dip, we're actually seeing some pretty steady numbers across the board, which is really great to show that we're continuing a kind of a linear progression of riders over the months, including what we would normally see as a downturn in our ridership and what we've seen in the past. So yeah, that's kind of the update there from the ridership program. If you wanted other specifics.
No, that's great. I just wanted to know the 12.8%, that's good. We're seeing progress there. When do we get our next update for 2025? Like, do we get a quarterly update again on the numbers? Just because, we are offering this free program. I just want to make sure that we're continuing to monitor its progress and its success and evaluating it as we go along.
Through the chair, so I've typically done it maybe every 6 months or so. Because I haven't been doing quarterly or half-year updates to council, I've usually just seen it for my own information, and then I provide the larger update to council as an annual. However, if council would like to see either quarterly or half-year reports just as information for regular updates for the public, I can definitely start doing that and do a similar layout to what I provided here.
I think that would be really helpful information for me. We started the free fare program because we really wanted to boost our ridership. And I think that was our intention. It was to continue to meet our strategic priority of providing an affordable community. It was a council priority. And so I think that comes with the responsibility of continuing to monitor and make sure that that program is reaching our goals. And it sounds like it is. So I think quarterly updates would be really great. That's my thoughts on that. I'll go to Councillor Patton and then Mayor Holmes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, I agree. I think about a month ago or 3 weeks ago when we were at that meeting at the Twisted Whisker, one of the community meeting there, one of the items that came up was service reductions. They want to see service reductions. And and of course, in our pack, overall service, yes, which this would fall into those service reductions. And we also received from one of our citizens today in regards to transit also, which, so I think that if we could, as we move through 2025 to move into 2026 budget, that this might be something that we should maybe keep a closer eye on. Thank you.
Mayor Holmes?
Yeah, I think some people think that if we don't have free fares, we're all of a sudden saving $280,000 a year, whatever the full cost of.
Are you still there? I think,
Transit collecting dollars a year. It's considered. I'd like to know, we had 12% or something increase
Mayor Holmes?
this year, but there was like, yeah.
Sorry, you just cut out for about 20 seconds. So can you just start your comment again? Turn your camera off. That'll help.
Okay. So I think there's some. Okay. Okay, Ken. Okay, I see my Wi-Fi is really bad here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Shit. Okay, so I think there's a kind of a perception out there that if we free fares, that we'd somehow be saving 280,000 or whatever the full amount of it costs to provide transit is, which isn't the case at all. I think when we did have fares, we were getting about 20,000 or something in revenue. So it's not, the fares just cover a small portion of the cost of providing public transit. So that's, when you talk about service reduction, yeah, if you get rid of the whole service, then you're going to save money. But, and I also like to know, we had a 12% or something increase this year, but last year was like a 40 or something increase. And so ridership on Route 30 has since pre-COVID time. So it's really, I think the free fares is serving its purpose. Also, with the introduction of the UMO card, now if the sustainability coordinator, correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to have an UMO card to get the free fare. And if you're just a casual user who uses the bus every once in a while and you don't have who doesn't have an UMO card, you're going to have to pay the fare, even if you are a Summerland resident. So we will be seeing a fare revenue this year, just by virtue of the fact that a lot of people won't have their UMO card.
Hey, thank
That's all
you.
I have to say. Did you get all that?
We did. Thank you very much. Good points. Yeah, we'll continue to monitor this program. And again, it is a council priority and it's in our strategic plan. So did you have a comment, Councillor Burkle? Question? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I certainly agree with Mayor Holmes that people conflate the free revenue, the free riding with the cost of the service altogether. And people who want to save money and see service reductions, I don't know if they're saying get rid of the free service to Penticton, which is only $20,000, or get rid of bus service altogether. But Mayor Holmes said something at the end about the effect of the UMO card that I didn't quite catch or understand. What will be the effect of everybody, even if they only want to take the free route to Penticton and back on the numbers?
Odessa, can you fill that in just in case Mayor Holmes cuts out again?
Through the chair to Councillor Barkwell. So I believe he was saying that if for whatever reason there's just a lapse in residents not getting their 2025 free fare pass, they'll just have to pay out of pocket when they ride. So we might see a small increase, but I really can't say 100% if that's going to be the case. We did try to do some pretty good advertising at the end of the year and into this year to ensure that people were aware of that. And I think the numbers show as well that in between last year and March, between then and December, we were able to get a number of people on that free fare pass. And I also just want to note too, if there's any questions specifically to BC Transit, we do have the government liaison, Bart Woolman, here. So if there's anything specific for council to ask, they're available as well.
Hi, Bart. Sorry, I couldn't see your name until now. Do you want to add anything to the discussion at all? Did you have any thoughts on what you've heard?
No, but through the chair, I just wanted to comment again on how satisfied we are with kind of all facets of Summerland's operations, management, and oversight from council. You know, I think the report today was just another good example of high quality data coming from staff, really highlighting the good work that's being done on the ground. So nothing substantial to update from my end.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Betts and then Barkwell.
Thank you. I mean, just to kind of look at what the idea really is in terms of, $20,000 in savings. If we eliminated the free fares, it's between $20,000 and $40,000, that eliminating that free fare opportunity. I mean, like that's something that we discussed at the last time after the trial period was up and decided to move in this direction. But if we're talking about general service reductions that actually make a significant difference to the district's operating budget, then we're talking about, like a significant service shift. So, that's a way different conversation. But just for my own personal understanding, a question for Bart. If Summerland, we're satisfied this was a council priority, but in the event that after the next election, it's not any longer a council priority to have a public bus system, what is the reality of canceling that contract? Just so that we have a full picture of what that means. What kind of contractual obligations do we have with BC Transit?
Well, thank you for the question. Through the chair. Essentially, your contract with BC Transit is through an annual operating agreement that's signed at the beginning of our fiscal year. There are clauses within those contracts that allow you to wind down service. There are specific dates for notice. Generally, best practice for winding down service or components of service is about a year of notice. To wind down an entire system would likely require a little bit of additional time just to ensure that the impacts, both financially and on riders, are not as acutely felt as normal. It's almost the inverse of a typical transit expansion process if you were to do it in a step function. I think as a reminder, Summerland has 2 buses and essentially 2 routes. So the ability to reduce at increments less than about half would be difficult in order to realize savings that would let you release a bus into the general fleet and et cetera.
No follow-up. I guess it's just more food for thought for council about how to make decisions moving forward, both for our residents and that investment. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Barkwell, and then I'll go to Mayor Holmes. His hand is still up. And then we'll wrap this up. Mayor Holmes, did you have a question?
Yeah, so just want to clarify what I meant about the UMO card there. So if you just use the bus every once in a while, like you're not a regular bus user, you just take the bus into Penticton once or twice a year because you want to go drinking, then you're probably not going to have a UMO card, and so then you're going to have to pay fare. That's just my point there, and then further, just to what Councillor Betts was saying there, we just had the discussion about primary care and the government the government's forcing us, Summerland residents, to go into Penticton for more and more reasons. That there's this regional centralization that's happening across the province where we're being forced to access essential services outside our home community, and so the people who are depending on public transit are the most vulnerable in society who need to access these essential services. And I really invite all members of council to ride the bus and just see who the riders are. And I think if you're just doing that, you really gain an appreciation of how important that transit it is to those people. And it's like it is a subsidized. We are subsidizing a small amount of people. If you just look at the numbers, but these are people who there's a reason why they take the bus. It's because they don't have the option of just hopping in their car. So it's, there's societal reasons for this. And there's social justice reasons. And I think for us to say we don't want to have public transit anymore, that's a huge step backwards.
Hey, thank you, Mayor Holmes. Final comment, Councillor Barkwell?
I was just wondering if Bart was aware of any other communities who are contemplating following our initiative and providing free bus transit for their residents.
Through the chair, thank you for your question. I'm not aware of any communities that are contemplating it currently. You were one of the front runners, along with the city of Penticton and a couple others in the province last year who were interested in offering free transit. But since then, I haven't noticed any others.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Odessa, for being here to just help explain that report a bit more. It was really helpful, and I think, if we can get quarterly updates, that would be great, just so that we're staying on top of it. Yes, thanks. Thank you very much. Okay, Council, can I get a motion to accept the items for information? Councillor Peak, Councillor Betts, all in favor? Great, thank you. So now, we need a resolution to close the meeting to the public. And Kendra, do I just need to read out the reasons or? Okay, so we will be closing our meeting to the public for sections 90.1C, G, I, and K of the Community Charter, labor relations, litigation, receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, negotiations and related discussions to proposal, provision of municipal service, blah, 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 blah. There's many reasons here. Okay, can I get a motion to go in camera?